Well, happy Thursday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. We are here with you until 5:30 today, the last of our shortened shows for the week. Royals baseball, unfortunate last night to lose. MJ Melendez, super hot start. And then the fielding wasn't so good, and Jordan Lyles was your pitcher, and yeah.
Also, if a ball doesn't literally disappear inside of a light cover in the Green Monster, who knows how many runs the Royals could have scored.
Yeah.
They would have scored at least one more run, and that might have come in handy in a one-run loss. So
Yeah.
A night of some buzzard's luck for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, definitely a bummer, but we move on. Final game of the series coming up tonight. A rare game in which the Royals starting pitcher has a better ERA than their opponent's starting pitcher.
That is rare.
Austin Cox, by .02, has a better ERA than James Paxton for the season. So we will talk a little Royals baseball coming up later on in the show today. We've got a lot of Chiefs to get to today. We'll lead off talking about our concerns with the Chiefs who are not in camp. Plus, we'll get to, or are injured right now. And I say in camp because we'll get you an update on Chris Jones as well. A piece from Nate Taylor over at The Athletic today about the ongoing negotiations. And it's pretty much just a case of who's going to blink first at this point. So we'll touch on that here in just a few moments. Also this hour, we'll talk to Rick Peterson from TopSports.News. It's the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round and a little preview of the NHRA action at Heartland Motorsports Park starting tomorrow night. I'm going to go. Have you ever been?
Yeah, I went, probably 2017.
I remember, so it would have been 2018 was the only time I've been. I went with Jake on, it would have been, I think, Sunday afternoon. It rained out. We didn't get any races. So we just sat in the box for a couple hours, then left because nothing ever happened. So I'm excited to go.
Have you been to like a drag strip?
No,
before?
never have.
See, there was one in Colorado that is actually closing this year. Bandimere, the Thunder Mountain, they call it.
Wow.
Because it's kind of tucked into the mountains there. And didn't go see the NHRA event, the Mile High Nationals there, but did go up there a couple of times to see some drag racing. And yeah, it's a fun time, man. If you are, I don't care how many times you've seen it, the sheer speed is kind of overwhelming and kind of cool. Also, the smell of fuel, like you'll go home and kind of smell like gasoline.
Hell yeah. That's what I love. Love to hear that. So we'll talk to Pistol about that. I know it's one of Pistol's favorite events of the entire year. So we are very excited to talk about that with Pistol coming up later this hour. Also this hour, we'll play some either or over under coming up here in just a little bit. We've got Crosstalk at 4:00 today. It is the final edition of Crosstalk. It is the last one because we're going back to a single show starting on Monday. That's right. If you haven't heard the news, on the show this week, 2:00 p.m. Monday. That's August 14th. Myself, Dan, Jake, all getting back together again. We're going back to the 3-man, 4-hour edition of 580 Sports Talk starting, again, 2:00 Central Time on Monday. So set your clock, set your alarms, be ready for that. So the final edition of Crosstalk is coming up at just after the top of the hour and the 4:00 hour today. Fulton's going to stop by, and his final show on Mic'd Up will be tomorrow. We're going to swing by Mic'd Up at the end of the show tomorrow as well and say our goodbyes to Fulton. So that's coming up in the 4:00 hour today. We'll go around the NFL. We will, of course, talk to Mitch Holthus for today's Chiefs training camp report. We've got What Is Wrong With You. All that coming up between now and 5:30 right here on 580 Sports Talk. We will also get to your texts, 785-272-9429. And we will get to your YouTube comments. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our YouTube channel. We've got some comments, Dan, who are noticing your apparel or lack thereof today. No hat.
Yeah, I got a haircut this morning, so I just didn't bring a hat with me out of the house and never grabbed one either. So
yeah, well,
you get what you get.
Also, when you get the haircut, then you put the hat on, you get all the little hairs.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to. But yeah, I did that. Trimmed up the facial hair a little bit. I think I look handsome.
Barbara on YouTube says, OMG, Dan is not wearing a hat. The world is ending. Just a rare glimpse behind the curtain.
Rest assured, I will be back in a ball cap tomorrow.
Never fear. Wanted to get to the Kansas City Chiefs to lead things off here. Before we get to our injury concerns, and there actually are a few players who are important who have been banged up, so we'll touch on them in a second. Chris Jones, the latest on the Chiefs superstar interior pass rusher. No real development here as of late, but Nate Taylor over at The Athletic had a piece that went up earlier this morning just titled, "The Clock is Ticking for Chris Jones and the Chiefs. Who will blink first and when?" And per Nate's math, if Chris Jones holds out through the entirety of camp, the entirety of the St. Joe portion of camp, he'll be fined $1.4 million. If it goes beyond that and we get closer to the season, that's more non-refundable fines that he is going to be charged. Now, granted, if you're looking for $100 million, you can probably afford to pay $1.4 million in fines. That's okay.
We know he's at least looking for 90. He's looking for $30 million a year. That's according to Nate Taylor, his reporting in The Athletic today. That's the number Chris Jones is looking for. He's looking for an average annual value of $30 million a year, because Aaron Donald's at 31. Chris Jones thinks he's in that stratosphere as a player. He sure as hell was last year.
Yep.
So I understand his position. I understand the Chiefs' position in saying, hey, we're going to be a little bit more reasonable with this because, last year you were that. You're also 29. And we want to pay you for what you're going to bring, but we also don't want to get in a position where we are overpaying and we don't leave ourselves enough salary cap room to be able to maybe address a weakness as it comes up as the season progresses. I understand why we're where we are. It certainly feels, as we've talked about this from the very beginning, that there's a framework in place, that there's an idea of what it's going to look like, but both sides appear to be, at the very least, we know that Chris Jones is on the extreme end of one side of the discussion. We don't know how far the Chiefs are towards the other extreme, which is the $24 million a year, I think it is, that Quinnen Williams got from the Jets. So somewhere in the middle, maybe not exactly in the middle, but somewhere in between is more accurate, is the happy medium, the proverbial happy medium. And we are not there yet because Chris Jones is sticking to his guns and saying, I should be paid more like Aaron Donald because I'm the closest thing to Aaron Donald in the league. And I'm not sure he's wrong.
And there is a point to that in the piece, and social media has run with this kind of in bad faith, but there is a line in here from Nate where he says the Chiefs, according to a league source, are unwilling to make Jones the league's highest paid defensive tackle. The franchise, which has played in 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, winning 2, doesn't have a single player who is the league's highest paid at his position, which, for what it's worth, is pretty crazy when you have Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, and Travis Kelce all on your roster.
Yeah, you have the undisputed best guy at one position, 2 positions, frankly, and you have Chris Jones, who is getting to be in that discussion based on what he did last year. So it is interesting factoid.
But that being said, we have none of the reporting at any point has indicated Chris Jones wants to be paid more than Aaron Donald is. That has never once come across the wire. Now, in ask for $30 million a year, that's sort of the expectation. That's the number we're playing with right now, which again is not quite Aaron Donald money. So it's not an issue to include that. I think it's useful information that he's not looking for more than that, but also people are running with that and make it sound like the Chiefs are playing hardball, which they're really not. At least it doesn't seem to me from the outside. Are you any more worried about his availability come week 1?
I'm really not. At some point, I'm not as sure as I was that this resolves itself with a new contract.
Okay.
I am now willing to see a future where maybe the Chiefs decide, hey, we're not going above this, and you either show up and play or you don't. And if you show up and play great, we'll make a run at it, and then next year we'll do a tag and trade. That kind of feels. I don't think that's the most likely possibility by any stretch. I still think something gets done. I think it is more likely than not. I would even say far more likely than not.
Agreed.
That an extension gets done. But the alternative of you stall Chris Jones out, he comes to camp and plays and balls out, wrecks shop, has the year he says he's going to have. He said he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. He's talking that talk. You know what you can't do and also win Defensive Player of the Year? Hold out. If you're going to win Defensive Player of the Year, you have to be on the field and playing in the games. So I think eventually he's going to show up, and the question is whether or not he'll have a new contract in hand. But I do see a scenario now, however unlikely, that the Chiefs dig in their heels and Jones decides, I'm tired of lighting $500,000 on fire every day. or $50,000 on fire every day. I'm going to show up to camp. I'm going to play. I'm going to get my money next year, regardless of who that's from.
Yeah, I'm with you in that regard. I was at 98%. I think the last time I gave a percentage, I would say right now I'm 96, 97% sure something is still going to get done because it has been made clear to us again that the Chiefs want this to happen. Chris Jones wants this to happen. They just have to come to that middle ground. I still think that is going to happen. I do think it is slightly more possible that you end up in a situation where he's back for just 1 year and he just plays out the string on his contract. Nobody wants that, obviously. Players don't want it because what happens if you get hurt? Because everybody gets hurt. What happened? You tear an Achilles, you tear an ACL, you tear a pec. I feel like defensive linemen have been tearing pecs a lot in recent years, and I don't know why that is. It happened to J.J. Watt. It happened to someone else last year, too. T.J. Watt. Yeah. He had a partial tear of his pec. You want that security. You want to know, hey, if I get hurt, I'm still getting my money. I'm still locked in. I'm still part of the team.
And the thing with Chris Jones is he's so important and so prominent on this team and so integral to this team's success, both in the short and the long term, that playing hardball with him doesn't play well in that locker room. I can't imagine that if this drags further and further on and the Chiefs do decide, hey, we're just going to, we're not doing it. We're not giving you $30 million a year. If somebody's going to do that for you, it's going to be next year and we'll tag and we'll trade you next year, but get your butt to camp and come try and win a Super Bowl and go earn that $30 million with another dominant year. I don't think that plays very well in the Chiefs locker room if they let it get to that.
Agreed.
And so I think that there is a little more urgency on the Chiefs side than might be being expressed because they know they got to keep this guy happy. They got to keep this guy on the team and they got to keep him happy. And if it means they overpay a little bit, well, then you're paying for now and maybe worry a little less about what that deal, what $30 million a year annually might look like when Chris Jones is 32.
You have to have him back. Like that's the one most important thing about all of this is for 2023, you have to have number 95 on the field. You really don't have a choice if you're the Chiefs. So just figure out a way to make it work. I do think he's going to end up with that contract, but it is a little interesting that it is taking this long when we all thought this deal was going to get done minutes after the Quinnen Williams deal. And I think Vance, to a degree, kind of sums it up here in the YouTube comments. It says, $28.5 million a year for 3 years, $60 million guaranteed. Seems reasonable, but that's above my pay grade. I think that's kind of the crux of the whole issue from our perspective is, like you said, there is a framework. Like we know the range of money, the ask, what the Chiefs are probably willing to do, the range of guarantees. Why isn't it done? So that's why you don't usually get this close publicly and not have something done.
Right.
So I assume that contract is coming sooner rather than later. As for guys who otherwise would be participating at camp, wanted to get to the players who have been banged up and what that means for the rest of camp, for the preseason, for the start of the regular season, and really what the concern level is. I will start with the player who I have the least concern for, and that's Isaiah Pacheco with the hand. Hurt last year, played through the rest of the season. Might have been why he was having issues with fumbles as a rookie. He's healthy, good to go, had the surgery, went well. I know he was non-contact for the start of training camp practice, but sounds like he's going to be good to go week one. He has said that. The team has pretty much said it. I'm not really worried about Isaiah Pacheco. And again, if getting surgery on his hand or wrist or whatever it was is all it's going to take for him to figure out the fumble problem, then great. Already a win this year.
Yeah, it was the only thing you didn't love maybe about his rookie campaign was a couple of fumbles in big spots. I remember the one at Houston in particular that ended up being a omen, and not in a good way, of a game that was way closer than it ever should have been.
Yeah.
But if that's the only complaint you've got, and you hope that having a healthy side of the body to hold the football with is going to clean that up. And so I think he can forge forward with some optimism for sure regarding Pacheco and his injury. I think he'd be out there now.
Yeah.
It feels like they're kind of taking it easy on him, and understandable. He's a big part of the offense, big part of the game plan.
Well, and don't burn through more tread than you have to, right? And You know what Isaiah Pacheco can do, and hopefully he is better. The rookie to sophomore jump, hopefully he continues to improve, but you know effectively what Isaiah Pacheco is or isn't at this point. You know who you could use to see a little bit more of? Deneric Prince. He should be out there all the time during the preseason. He should get the vast majority, I would say, of snaps at the running back position during preseason action. The next player I would say that I'm not super worried about, especially after the report earlier this week that he's hoping to be back week 1, Kadarius Toney. I felt from the beginning that the Chiefs don't need him in week 1 or probably even week 2 or 3. Now, you don't want to lose him for a prolonged period of time because then you got to worry about the ramp up, and then you have to worry about getting ready and prepared with the playbook and the chemistry with your quarterback and the receivers and all those little pieces of minutia. I still don't feel super confident that he's going to be ready for week 1 like we heard the Chiefs are optimistic about, but as long as he's healthy within the first few weeks and doesn't have to go on the PUP list, that's a win for me. So I'm feeling more comfortable about that after the report this week. I still am a little hesitant to say he'll be out there week 1, though.
Yeah, it's concerning given his injury history, right? Like if we weren't talking about a player who missed significant portions of the last 2 seasons with injuries, we probably would be a little bit less broadly concerned about Kadarius Toney. But this was a concern even before he had the surgery, basically got it hurt to start camp and then had the surgery. This was a concern coming into, this is a concern when they acquired him in the trade with the Giants in the first place. Because, obviously the skill set is there. Can you rely on him to be on the field? And the Chiefs, as we've talked about, very much are counting on him to be on the field. They are counting on him. They believe he is wide receiver number 1. And wide receiver number 1 last year, Juju Smith-Schuster was that guy for the Chiefs, and he got 101 targets. Like that's the role of wide receiver 1 in the Chiefs offense as it currently exists, with Travis Kelce really being your top passing game target at the tight end spot. 101 targets for Kadarius Toney. We've never seen him with that kind of workload. No. We've never seen him able to stay on the field for a full 17 games. So it's fair to have some doubts. It's fair to think that he's probably not going to see the field in all 17 games, but can he be on the field for as many of them as possible? And how productive can he be? How much can you really lean on him? Can you really give him that workload, or do you have to spot him a little bit more with some guys with maybe some similar skill sets, like maybe a Richie James type? That is something I will be fascinated to see as the season gets going. But I don't think we're going to have a real answer to that until Toney's actually part of the mix, which, again, that might not be week 1. They're optimistic more so than they were last week about it being week 1. But I don't know what shape that's going to take until he's on the field and on the active roster and in the lineup to start a week.
For what it's worth, you mentioned Juju last year, who kind of wild he didn't get over 1,000 yards receiving. And I know it makes sense when you talk about, well, spreading it around and Travis Kelce gets his and all that, but it is kind of amazing. 101 targets for the year. In 2 seasons, and I'll add the playoffs, in 2 seasons plus playoffs, Kadarius Toney has a grand total of 70 targets in 2 years. He's never, not only has he not reached that same caliber of workload, he's never come remotely close. His first year with the Giants, he played in 10 games and had 57 targets. Last year, between 2 teams, he played in 9 games, had a grand total of 20 targets. Like this, not even coming close. I was reading the wrong number. 77 total targets, not 60. 77 total targets. I hope he can hold up, but that, like I said a few weeks ago, that is the number 1 concern with him being your number 1 wide receiver, is can you rely on him to do all the things you need a number 1 wide receiver to do? Lastly, and this is, I feel like, kind of been under the radar a little bit, L'Jarius Sneed's knee is not quite right. There have been a couple of reports that have just sort of trickled in, again, under the radar, that, hey, he was back at practice, but then his knee was swelling up, and it's still swelling, and it still doesn't feel 100%. Another player that you know what he is. I mean, not that he doesn't need training camp, because the conditioning and getting up to game speed, that is meaningful. But you know what L'Jarius Sneed is at this point of his career, at this point of his tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs. So he doesn't have to be out there for the preseason. He doesn't have to get every single team rep. But that being said, he is, depending on your perspective, I would argue your first or second best defensive back for this team. It's him or McDuffie, I would say. And if you wanted to give it to Snead because he's more versatile and he's a veteran, sure. If you want to say it's McDuffie because of the upside, sure. But Snead's really dang important. And if you don't have him, or if you have even a limited version of him, that I think puts more pressure on those young guys who debuted last year or who came into the team this year. And specifically, the guy you mentioned yesterday is the guy to keep an eye on, Jalen Watson, that, hey, if we have anything less than the full L'Jarius Sneed, other guys are going to have to pick up the slack because Sneed does a lot for this defense. Like a ton. I would say in terms of what he is asked to do, I think you could argue no one has more on their plate than L'Jarius Sneed on this defense.
Interesting. I was going to argue, is he the third most important player on that defense of the projected starting 11? Because obviously Chris Jones, he's the best guy. He's the most important guy. He's your sack leader and an impossible matchup. And then I think Nick Bolton.
Okay.
Because he's the green dot. After that, I think it's Sneed, and I don't know that I would listen to an argument for anyone having more importance, not just because of how important the role of that nickel defensive back, that nickel corner, slot corner is now, but also he's one of the team's best blitzers. And so much of the creativity that Steve Spagnuolo shows with regard to bringing extra men in pressure, L'Jarius Sneed gives them the opportunity to do that because he's really good at it. Not just because he's there, because he's an awesome blitzer and he gets results. He makes big plays. That play he made against Tampa Bay last year, the strip sack on Brady on Sunday Night Football, it was a massive play in that game. So I think Sneed is super important, and the Chiefs know this. And I think there's an element of veteran management to this. I think if it was something that there was a long term, like, hey, you need to go get that cut on and fix something in there, then they would have done it already. He would have had an operation. It might just be like a chronic thing at this point, but that's a scary thought too, right? And when I talked about this with Matt Derrick last Friday here on 580 Sports Talk, and we'll talk to Matt tomorrow, of course, for our Chiefs Insider segment at 2:35 or so tomorrow. But Matt posed the thought, what if there's a long-term concern with regard to that knee that might be a reason why we have never heard a whisper about a long-term contract extension for a player like Sneed, who is so important and in the last year of his contract.
That's a great point.
I wonder if the Chiefs know something about that knee that, hey, it is what it is, and you're just going to have to manage it, and you're just going to have to get him to Sunday each week. And you can make it work for a week at a time, for a month at a time, maybe even for a season at a time. But over the long haul, this may not be the kind of thing we want to entrust a significant portion of our salary cap to.
I think that's a great point. I think, for what it's worth, the point you brought up, I would say the 3 through 5 in terms of most important players in the defense are some combination of McDuffie, Sneed, and Karlaftis. I think you could put any of them in any order, personally. And make a good argument for it. This one worries me the most, I think, by quite a bit, because offensively, to be frank, running back, as we have discussed endless numbers of times, you can find a replacement, especially in a pinch, for a running back. And in your passing game, Patrick Mahomes kind of papers over all your issues, so you can live without a receiver for a few weeks.
Right.
If you lose L'Jarius Sneed, you lose your star blitzer from the second level. You lose the guy who can play coverage over the top. You lose the guy who can man up in the slot. And you lose the guy who, while it's not his best element, is able to play on the boundary as well. That's why I think you get more value with Sneed, and he's asked to do more. Because as we talked about with Mitch earlier this week, McDuffie is mostly a boundary guy. You might see him more in the slot this year, but he is your typical number one boundary corner, which is obviously valuable, but Sneed is kind of the queen on the chessboard, so to speak. So if he's not 100% ready to go, that then puts more pressure on some of those younger guys to be able to step up. And it makes it hurt more that Najee Johnson is out for the year, considering the camp he was having so far.
Because now, as you look at your depth at that position, if you're managing Sneed and he's got to miss a game or he's got to come out of a game, then you're leaning on your three guys, all of whom are second-year guys. Is Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, and Trent McDuffie. And then you're looking at the rookie, Nick Jones, the rookie, Echo Boydo. They don't have like a veteran guy. There's not like, and I know Mike Hughes isn't a great player. I mean, there's a reason he was available when he was for the Chiefs to sign him, but they don't have that guy on this roster. They don't have a veteran corner who at the very least has seen some stuff, has played in the league, can move around a little bit.
Sure.
You're leaning on your young guys. And if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. If the Chiefs get the benefit of the doubt anywhere on the field when it comes to drafting and developing guys at this point, it's corner, it's defensive back, because they've done an outstanding job with that, particularly with third-day guys and undrafted guys. But it's still a less than ideal situation to be in a pass-heavy league when you got to go in this league. They got to face Justin Herbert twice. They got to go against Burrow this year. They've got some big games against some prolific passers that they got to play Rodgers early in the year. You would much rather have your full component, your full depth. And hopefully what we're seeing with Snead is just a typical vet management. Like, hey, the knee's barking. We're going to keep him off of it as much as we possibly can, but we're going to be able to get him to Sunday each week. That's entirely possible. There are guys in this league that are playing through stuff, playing through nagging injuries, playing through old injuries, playing through swelling. Happens all the time. And L'Jarius Sneed is the guy who's been pretty durable for the Chiefs. Hasn't missed a whole lot.
Nope.
So I am hoping that there is confidence from the Chiefs that they can get him to Sunday on a week-by-week basis this year. And I'm confident. Confident's not the right word. I'm reasonably confident that L'Jarius Sneed is going to be, on the field more than he's not on the field this year. I don't believe there's anything to make me feel like, oh, this could be leading towards a long-term absence. But I do, though, wonder if there is something for the long term that the Chiefs are concerned with there.
We'll talk more Chiefs defensive backs with Mitch Holthus coming up at the 5 o'clock hour today. Right now, we have to get to our first commercial break. We'll play either or over under next and talk to Rick Peterson later on this hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. Really quick before we get to either or over under for today, we've got the latest update to the Iowa college athletes gambling story.
Okay.
We've got 3 new names of players who went to the University of Iowa, played for their football team, who have gotten in trouble for the gambling investigation. They include defensive back Reggie Bracey, wide receiver Arland Bruce IV, and wide receiver Jack Johnson, all of whom have been charged with records tampering in the state of Iowa's sports wagering investigation. Same can be said for an Iowa grad assistant. 2 of those players transferred this year.
Yeah, Arlen Bruce, one of them. He's a Olathe North kid.
Yeah, there was a lot of smoke between him and K-State, actually, when he was in the transfer process. He is now at Oklahoma State. I have a feeling he's not going to play for the Cowboys this year, though.
Or maybe ever.
Or maybe ever again. Reggie Bracey, the other player I mentioned, he is also transferring to Troy this year. That's bad, man. I was gone when that news broke with Hunter Deckers.
Right.
And I may or may not have said addition by subtraction when the news broke, but that's bad. Like, it's a plague on the 2 major programs in that state.
I just don't understand where the parents are at here. Like the one baseball player from Iowa whose mom let him make bets under her name on his phone, like set up an account so he could gamble. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's messy.
You don't need, like, you can wait till you're 21 and you can get down legally, because you can't, some states you be 18 and gamble on sports. Other states it's 21, and Iowa it's 21. Just wait till you can do it legally, because you can't do it there before you're 21, and you definitely can't do it as a college athlete. Just be smart. Everybody's saying, well, this is what happens when you let the gambling companies get in bed with the da-da-da-da. No, just be smart. There are rules. Follow the rules of your workplace.
Yep.
It's not hard to follow the posted rules of your workplace. I don't care how many commercials you see for gambling houses. Follow the rules of your workplace, and you don't have this.
I agree. No, I'm not a parent, so sometimes I feel bad criticizing the parenting work of others, but this seems like a pretty cut and dry, no, you can't break the law on my phone kind of thing.
Yes.
And ruin your career. I probably wouldn't do that, but
yeah,
not my kids, I guess. Real quick, either or for me, phrased in a different way. Of all the schools, of all the Pac-12 schools, or otherwise, because there's Big 12 schools that are moving on after this year as well. Of all the schools that are moving conferences starting next year, who's the first one to make the college football playoff?
First one to make the college football playoff in their new league? I'm going to say it's USC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's USC in the Big Ten.
I think USC is definitely number 1. I think
USC, and then probably I think, because I mean it's expanding to 12 teams now, so there's more space. I think USC could be a playoff team in the Big Ten, and I think that Utah has a chance, certainly, to be a early playoff team out of the Big 12.
I was going to say Utah because of the fact that there's going to be less. There's plenty of competition in the league, but there's no Ohio State and Michigan in the Big 12. There's no Alabama and Georgia in the Big 12, which I think opens the door for a lot of teams, but among the newcomers, certainly Utah.
Over under in the next 5 years of Big 12 football, including this one and then the 16 team seasons that we've got coming up after this. In the next 5 years, over under 3.5 different league champions.
Over.
You think it'll ping pong around a lot?
Yes, because it is so wide open, I think. And because at least at the moment, I mean, West Virginia is going to be bad, but they've been good recently. There's not a doormat program in the Big 12 right now, which I think is going to make every week this could be a difficult week.
Maybe up for grabs.
Every road trip is going to be challenging. Even every home game is going to be challenging, which even in those big conferences, you still got Rutgers, you still got Vandy. You're not going to have those in the Big 12. And I think a lot of the teams are on it. Like, the difference between number 11 in the Big 12 and number 3 in the Big 12 is probably closer than like number 3 and number 6 in the SEC, to be completely honest with you. So I'm going to go with over. I think K-State, I think Utah, I think Oklahoma State. Well, not Oklahoma State right now. I think Texas Tech, I think Baylor, TCU, all those teams are going to have a claim for it in the coming years.
Yeah, there are going to be some teams, I think, along the way that have like 2-3 year runs where they win multiple titles. But I think early on, it's going to take a while to see how it shakes out.
Let's get to a quick break. Rick Peterson will hop on with us next here on 580 Sports Talk. Bottom of the 3 o'clock hour on a Thursday afternoon means it's time for our weekly chat with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. Pistol joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. You can find him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick, and all of his phenomenal work covering all of our local teams and athletes over at TopSports.News. What's going on, Pistol? How are you?
I'm doing great.
How excited are you for this weekend at Heartland Motorsports Park?
Well, I got some mixed feelings, Brendan. You know, I've been to every single one since 1989, but I'm a little sad that this is going to be the last one. We know it's going to be the last one, and it's just kind of, like I said, a little sad.
Do we know why the Menards, I'm sorry, Pistol, I cannot remember the full name of the event. It is the Menards NHRA Nationals. Do we know why it's moving to Odessa, Missouri starting next year?
Well, it all comes down to, Heartland's ownership having continuing and still serious problems with Shawnee County over the tax situation. And they've been fighting that for years now, and it just wasn't getting any better. And I think Chris Payne, who's based in Kansas City and also has ownership in I-70 Speedway, I think he started looking for options and looking for alternatives. And, probably NHRA is going to go with what's their most stable environment. And we're not even sure, Heartland will be there next year. So I think that all kind of played into play. I'm not surprised at all. It was just a sad situation that the county couldn't come up with and Chris Payne couldn't come up with a something that worked for both of them, but they couldn't. And here's where we are.
We're chatting with Rick Peterson from TopSports.News. It's the High School Whip Round brought to you by Invista Credit Union here on 580 Sports Talk. Before we get to the Prep Sports, talking a little bit about this weekend's NHRA Menards Nationals at Heartland Motorsports Park. Make sure you check out all of Pistol's great work, by the way, at TopSports.News. There's a piece you put up over at the website this week, Pistol, about the top 15 moments in Topeka's drag racing history. I have not been around since 1989, both in town and being alive. But I know there is a proud tradition, obviously. I know it is such a big event for this community every year. How much fun did you have putting that together, and how did you end up coming up with the top 15 moments?
Well, first of all, you'll have to trust me, being you haven't been around since '89, so you'll just have to trust me. But no, I was there for all of them. So, I mean, that helps. So now the thing is trying to figure out, okay, which belongs up here, which belongs here and stuff like that. But no, they were all pretty fresh in my mind still, particularly all the stuff with John Force and John Force Racing. I mean, they've had that, the legend John Force and his racing team have had a great deal of success right here in Topeka. And I do want to I sit down with John every year, and I want to sit down with John this year and see, how sad he is to see it moving on.
What are you most excited for? And I know I ask you this question every year, Pistol, but what are you most excited to see coming up this weekend? I am going for the first time, by the way, tomorrow night. I was supposed to go the Sunday of 2018, but it got rained out. They postponed some of it, so I didn't get to see any of the action. So I'm going for the first time. So if you were going to give me a little, quick reference guide, what the most fun things to see, what would they be?
Well, definitely you want to look for the funny cars and the top fuels because those are the big, powerful machines that are going to make a lot of noise, and you're going to be sniffing the nitro and all that. So that's really good. And also go hang out in the pits. I mean, that's what I always look forward to because that's one thing about NHRA. Their drivers are out on the ropes signing autographs, posing for pictures with the fans. They're very accessible, a lot, probably maybe more accessible than any other sport. So those would be that'd be my cheat sheet for you.
Well, I appreciate that, and looking forward to being there for the first time coming up tomorrow. Throughout the weekend down at Heartland Motorsports Park, the Menards NHRA Nationals for the final time in Topeka. Let's get to some high school sports here, Pistol, as the best of the best project you guys have going on over at topsports.news continues. The voting is done. The lists are out. They continue to come out day by day over at topsports.news. What has the initial reaction been to some of the results? I know boys and girls tennis lists have come out here in the last day or so. What have been some of the reactions you've gotten from the community, from former athletes, parents, fans, whoever, to some of the results so far?
I think for the most part, people are just happy to kind of drudge up some old memories, if you will. I mean, get a chance to relive some of the great times. I've been in contact with Mike Goring, whose Topeka West team was at the top of the top on the girls basketball list. I've talked to Ken Darting, whose grade 07 Highland Park team shared the top spot with Aiden's grade 83 team. So I think most people are just kind of enjoying reliving some of the stuff and maybe seeing some names they haven't seen in a while.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Rick Peterson of topsports.news. This is the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Thursday at this time with the great Rick Peterson. Pistol, you laid out the 18 new varsity head coaches that have been announced by Shawnee County High Schools, and one of them only just recently announced Topeka West's new girls basketball coach, Brent Reese-Hackett, former TCU Horned Frog. He's been an assistant in the area, getting a chance now to take over as the Topeka West girls basketball coach. That program took some strides forward in their first year in the UKC last year. Bit of an awkward time to start in the job, but what do you think Reese-Hackett will bring to the Lady Chargers?
Well, I think enthusiasm, and he has been around basketball his whole life. So those two things particularly. You mentioned it. It was a late hire. I'm not sure anybody's fault. It just they hit a snag, and it was a late hire. So he's got to hit the ground running, which they can't do, with the summer already over. But I think they'll be in the gym doing strength and conditioning, and maybe hopefully some stuff on the outside of school, and then get ready for November.
I was going to ask you too, Pistol, and an extremely useful post over at the website, again, topsports.news, all of the Shawnee County coaching changes for this year. Does it feel like this year has more, fewer, or about the same number of vacancies? Because it felt, or changes, I should say, not necessarily vacancies now. It felt for a while like we were getting new coaches or coaching turnover constantly. Is that more anecdotal, or did it feel like we had more this year?
This is very interesting. Great question. I thought it seemed like a ton. And then I looked back at my story I did at this time last year, and I had 19 last year and 18 this year.
Huh.
So pretty dang, right there.
Interesting. That is fascinating, because it really did feel, with the change
for,
Topeka West football, Topeka West girls basketball. Maybe it's just because, we're so focused a lot of the time on football, basketball, it felt that way. But that's surprising. I really thought we had more this year. Wow.
Yeah, surprised me too. But I think, in a lot of those I think or like Rule 10 positions. So those do kind of change from time to time. But the core group, the old timers are still hanging in there.
Of the coaches that are stepping in, and this can be from any of the sports, and again, I know there are 18 to pick from here. Are there any who you feel like are in an especially good spot to start off from? Because, sometimes new coaches come in and it's kind of a resetting year. A coach for a long time leaves and maybe the roster is turning over quite a bit. And some coaches step into an opportunity where, hey, they've got a great chance to step in and succeed right away. Do any really jump out to you as having a great opportunity to hit the ground running and find success right away?
Well, I don't know if immediate success, but the two that really come to mind for me are Corinne Stringer McGreevy, who was one of the best all-time players in Hayden history, played Division I and Division II volleyball, and now she's the head coach of her alma mater at Hayden. And then Shannon Kruger, who, again, was one of the greatest in his school's history in multi-sports, and now he's taken over at his alma mater in boys basketball. And both of those, I think, Brendan, is just a case of you got to be excited. I mean, if you're a Silver Lake person or a Hayden person, I think you got to be excited. I mean, Google them and you can see all the great things they've done. And I think when you're getting ready to report to their teams, I think you just have to be fired up.
Yeah, it does feel, and again, maybe this is just anecdotal and maybe this is, recency bias as someone who hasn't been here my whole life, Pistol, but it does feel like there's a lot of names here that carry a lot of weight, like guys who played football at Washburn, thinking of a Trey Parker, Brent Reese-Hackett, who played college basketball at TCU. You mentioned Corinne McGreevy. You think of Trey Brown, who I know switched from Care Paravel to Hayden, who has, an incredible career as a player here in town and then collegiately as well. It does feel like a lot of these new coaching opportunities bring with them a little more cachet maybe than we normally get.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned Shannon and Corinne, but how about Brent Hackett? I mean, guys, I looked him up. I looked up and went over his entire stats and was just amazed at what a great career he had at TCU. That's got to be, especially for a team that struggled a long time, to just have that notoriety coming in to head your program. I think the Charger girls should be, and hopefully they'll get more out because of that, because they say, hey, I want to go play for this guy. He can help me go some places.
Rick Peterson covers all of our local sports, high school, NHRA, Washburn, you name it, covers all of them better than anybody and does so over at topsports.news. Make sure you're checking out the website for all of his great content and the Best of the Best project. You can find Pistol on Twitter as well, at Peterson_Rick. And he joins us this time every single Thursday for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. Pistol, don't be a stranger tomorrow night. Come say hi, okay?
I sure will.
That is Rick Peterson, the absolute best when it comes to covering sports here in Topeka and the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. I'm really surprised there were fewer new coaches this year. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it felt like mid-spring, every day we had a new coach who's being hired in the city.
You look at the broader list and there's not that much turnaround at all. You had two schools that retain their entire varsity coaching staffs at Seaman and Topeka High. Only one football coach turns over. Those are the ones you really notice, the football coaches. They only have 18 total in the county turnover. Yeah, that does feel like a small number.
Feels good for the athletes, too, to have that kind of consistency. Let's get to a break for our national and local news. We'll lead off the 4 o'clock hour with the final edition of Crosstalk with Fulton Caster right here on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, it's the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 5:30 today. One more shortened show because of Royals baseball versus the Boston Red Sox. Royals looking to even the series tonight. Pregame begins at 5:30. First pitch is at 6:10 from Fenway Park in Boston. And you can hear all the action, pregame, postgame, and the game itself right here on 580 WIBW tonight. We will preview the game coming up in just a little bit in the 5 o'clock hour. Also still coming up today in this hour, we've got What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, and we will go around the NFL. We've got preseason football tonight. How hyped are you?
Yeah, it is the Seahawks. That's my favorite team.
Yeah?
I might check it out.
Gonna be some hot Drew Lock action tonight.
That's where I check out.
Yeah, Texans, Patriots at 6, Vikings, Seahawks at 9.
I might watch the opening drive.
Any other players you're particularly interested to see?
I
I don't know what the Seahawks plan is in terms of their starters.
I don't either. I have not paid enough attention at this stage to know, like, is Pete Carroll going to play the starters for an entire drive, an entire quarter, or what? I hope we get to see Jackson Smith and Jigba do something cool, though.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm pulling for that.
I saw this morning on, or was it, might have been last night, actually. I was watching NFL Network, and yeah, it was definitely last night. And I fell asleep on my couch again, by the way, face down on the couch. I was so tired, and my sleep has not even come close to recovering from my airport excursion on Sunday. Not even.
Yeah,
close.
you're going to need a full week.
Yeah, badly. But the NFL Network crew was in Seattle at training camp, and they were talking to DK Metcalf, and they asked him what his initial thoughts about Jackson Smith and Jigba were, and he said, "No, he's a good kid. He came in hard at work. We did have to tell him this ain't Ohio State anymore. You don't win every game by 20 just for being Ohio State." But I thought, yeah, that probably is tough for some guys.
No kidding.
It probably is. But we will talk some more NFL coming up later this hour. Mitch Holthus will join us next hour, all coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. Plus, your texts. Text line number is 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section can be found on our live stream at our channel, which is called Sports on 580 WIBW. And before we get to all of that, we welcome in for the final time on 580 Sports Talk, the one, the only, Fulton Caster, co-host for just one more day. I was sad to say that. One more day of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton coming up tomorrow from noon until 3. As you have probably heard by this point, we are going back to 4 hours of 580 Sports Talk every single weekday, 2 until 6. Myself, Dan, Jake Laban, starting on Monday, right here on 580 WIBW. So, Fulton, I would make a big deal about you being the first and last Crosstalk guest, but there's literally only 2 people we ever have for Crosstalk, so it was kind of 50-50 that would happen.
Yeah, it's fair. Just flipped a coin and it landed up on the right side here.
So, we could be romantic about it. Like, yeah. How appropriate. How fitting.
How fitting. How fitting. No, but Fulton, we are sad to see you go. Obviously happy for you. You're moving on to some other professional opportunities. Any big blowout plans for the show tomorrow to, I don't know, deliver takes you've been saving for the last couple of years?
Funny you mentioned that. So Jake has decided, Jake decreed this today. And I mean, I'm not against it. It's not something I'm against doing, but was not my idea. Jake has decided not only tomorrow will we get my bold predictions for the NFL season. Normally that's the thing we do when the preseason ends. I won't be here when that happens. So Jake still wants those, like we had my Chiefs over-unders today on Mic'd Up. Jake has decided tomorrow he wants a top 10 list. I think I can get to 10 of just sports takes hills I will die on. Just things that are my strongest
I
opinions.
don't know that you can get to 10, man. This is not an insult, but I feel like there's a lot more than 10.
Here's and funny enough, this was sparked today by my rant about how much I despise the Boston Red Sox City Connect uniforms, aka the UCLA Bruins uniforms that they wear.
That's literally what you said.
Yes,
They're horrible.
They look like the UCLA
them.
Red Sox. Really
they are
bad.
the Boston Red Sox. Put some red in your damn uniform.
Amen.
Yeah, wear some socks too.
They'll at least do that. But yeah, that was kind of the impetus. So I already have a few in the chamber that I know are going to get fired off tomorrow, but was not my idea. But you know what? Jake wants me just through that to go off on some things. So
whole 1 o'clock hour.
It's pretty much the entire 2 o'clock hour tomorrow.
How much time are
you?
How much time are you dedicating to Kyle Isbell?
I don't think Kyle's a hill I'll die on. He's a guy I support. He's not a hill I'll die on.
What I'm most glad for you, Fulton, moving forward, that you don't have to do is that you can watch the Kansas City Royals play baseball in peace and not have to worry about how am I going to rationalize this for 3 hours tomorrow? How am I going to rationalize this 9-1 loss?
I can sit, watch them disappoint me, and just slink into the darkness.
And just as they were starting to playing better too, though, that is a little frustrating. Like just as they were starting to do some stuff that you could start to pound your chest a little bit and say, "Hey, I was right about Mike Garcia."
I can just sit and fire off those things off Twitter and silence my notifications and close up the threads and just I can do that. I don't have to listen to responses to my takes anymore. When I'm in this forum, there is a level of give and take. I can just now yell into a void and make myself feel good.
One of the most powerful moves you can pull on Twitter is to tweet something incendiary and then immediately hit mute conversation.
Yes.
None of the replies, none of the quotes, none of them will pop into your feed. That's always smart. Vance has another comment here. He says, Jake gave out an ungodly amount of homework. So this was the thing when we split the show up originally. When Dan came back in, and last May, we split it up into Sports Talk and Mic'd Up. Jake was adamant, like, Fulton, you have not done enough culturally significant things. I'm going to make you do these.
Yeah.
What percentage of things did you actually do that he has said over the last... You we started here in when 2021, spring 21.
Yep,
fall
spring 21. Spring of 21, like I think March or April 21.
Of all the things Jake has demanded that you do in that time, what percentage have you actually done?
A low percentage point. And pretty much all of them were just when we were doing the summer of Fulton, which we did not intentionally peter out. Just things got in the way, schedules kept getting thrown off, and it just
football started,
and because originally, I mean, him and I'll both be honest here, and at least I'll make him be honest with it. That was designed as a content filler, and as soon as it didn't need to be content filler, well, I got
welcome to the behind the scenes world of summertime sports talk radio.
Yeah,
yes.
Sometimes you just got to get stuff on the air.
So it's just got left on the cutting room floor. Like,
it did.
Like
it literally did.
Lindsey Buckingham on What's Up With That. They're always running out of time.
Yeah. Jake told me today that he told Fulton he's going to send him a dad joke every week.
Yes, Jake has said every Wednesday for a year, he's going to send me a dad joke every day. He's going to put a reminder on his phone to do it. I give him 3 weeks.
That's generous.
I feel like being generous. I give him 3 weeks.
We have a texter from the 785 who says we need a once-a-month check-in on you called Fulton in the Abyss, shouting hot takes into the darkness.
Listen, if you follow me on Twitter, you will still get my takes.
I think that's actually going to be the title of the Kansas City Royals 2023 highlight video.
It really might be. Just interspersed
Fulton in the Abyss.
Just backing tracks of Fulton's thoughts
it's nothing
on the team.
but low lights filled with occasional like screenshots of my tweets, some stares of me into the distance, and a lot of Hello Darkness, my old friend playing on repeat.
Now, speaking of football kind of being when like summer content filler goes away, I know you will still have some sports broadcasting opportunities for what your future professional life looks like, but a nice thing, or maybe a bad thing potentially, it would be bad for me, your entire yearly calendar no longer like the new year for especially in our area where we don't have NBA, we don't have NHL.
Yeah.
The new year, January 1st is the start of training camp. Like 2 weeks ago when camp opened, that was New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And the year is based around the football season, more so than
pretty much
baseball, college basketball.
Pretty much.
It's football season. So now you're going to have a little more freedom than that.
Yeah,
you can actually celebrate a normal calendar.
Yeah, I can't lie. My fall opens up dramatically now. And maybe I get more freedom to do a couple things. There'll still be a few sports related things on my calendar. But I've loved this job. And I'll make that clear, and we'll talk about it a bunch tomorrow on Mic'd Up with Jake. I've loved my time here, loved my 2 years here. But man, there's something about I'm just gonna be able to enjoy sports in a bit in kind of the old way I enjoyed them. Of just I'm watching this without any thought in the world about what can I craft this into for content or how will I break this down the next day. It's just now I'm just gonna watch this. When it comes to the Royals, that's a very good thing.
The Royals,
Chiefs, that's it.
It will take you a little while to stop, mentally making notes, but eventually, I'm sure you will get to do that.
I'll eventually get to the point where I stop. It'll definitely probably be a minute till I stop making notes about things.
It is kind of amazing though when you do this, especially for any prolonged period of time. You really can't turn it off.
It's hard.
Like
it is.
I've always got a take.
Oh yeah,
for everything.
I watch any sporting event. I got something to fire off. It doesn't go away. I get a thought, and I'm like, well, this is just what happens. When you're just engrossed in the take machine.
By the way, if you do want to keep up with Fulton on Twitter, Zitter, whatever it's called now, at Fulton Caster is where you can find him. Are you going to, now that you
such a stupid website?
Now that you don't have to have I guess you didn't have to in the first place, like a professional Twitter handle, are you going to go back to an old one? Fulton has had a few.
I've had a few. I'm probably going to keep it where it is. It's simple. It's easy. No matter what work I end up doing, there's just a level of social media presence that always has to exist. So I'll keep it the way it is. I've just found some simple comfort in it's just my name.
What were your old handles?
The
Fulton?
OG Twitter name for me, and this has to include a bit of a story.
I don't know this story.
The OG Twitter handle for me, and OG social media handle for me for most things was Futon Flyby. And there's two parts to this. Futon, like the furniture, because
it's a typo.
A verbal typo, yes. When I did speech and debate in high school, my freshman year, the first time I ever won a medal and placed in the top, it's supposed to be top 6, this was top 7. They announced me as Fulton Caster to a crowd of people. Not only did they do that, they took that medal away from me on stage when they realized they made a mistake. Just a devastating story.
You got what's
Moonlight.
Yeah, you got moonlighted.
Yeah.
But
you got moonlighted by the wrong name.
I did. Through that, though, through high school, it became a running thing of what random nicknames can we give me. I don't remember most of them, but it all started through that. And it was just, it was a very fun, entertaining thing of just what randoms come from that moment. So that's why I put that in there. The flyby part comes from my first ever theater class in high school, to where one of an acting exercise we did was we had to, learning acting and things. One of the things was, my teacher was like, we're going to do mock parent-teacher conferences, and you're going to impersonate one of your parents. And so during that, my professor is a very strange man in a good way, but he's a quirky dude, said not that I was doing drive-bys on my classmates, but flybys.
Okay.
And that is how that was born.
I thought maybe that was your favorite Rush song was Fly By Night.
No.
Away from here.
The Rush rules.
This is not a criticism, because you and I have been friends for a long time.
We have.
High school theater kid / debate kid is not a typical starting point for sports talk radio host.
No,
that is not a straight line.
However, as a former high school debate kid, I would recommend it. Like,
I would too.
True.
Like,
That's
if
fair.
I were talking to any aspiring sports broadcaster and they were in high school or middle school and they knew that's what they wanted to do, I would say absolutely do extemporaneous speech. Learn how to
speak.
Think
on your feet.
Learn how to be able to speak intelligently on the fly about a topic that you might not have a ton of information about. Learn how to research fast. Learn how to be quick on your feet. Yeah, 100%. I would recommend it.
It's some of the best advice I could even ever give to young people getting into this career. But no, I've always said I am a very interested with everything else I'm into. It is also fascinating that I'm this into sports. I live at an intersection of two very different worlds.
I didn't know you were a debate kid.
I was.
I'm apparently around you people all the time. My wife was in high school debate. Apparently only me and Jacques Laban weren't part of that.
I did it for 2
Lord knows Jacques Laban wasn't in any sort of those
I
things.
did it for 2 years. We were a pretty brand new high school when I started going to the high school I went to in Colorado. It was only the 3rd year the school had been open, and the first year it had been open to all 4 classes.
Okay,
freshman through senior. So it didn't really have a fully realized debate program, and I kind of got fed up with it a little bit. And so after 2 years, I just stopped doing it because I got good at baseball, and I did that.
I get that.
I don't want to continue to feed into the jokes people can make about Dan and I being similar in many ways. Or being related.
Yeah, we've given more grist for the mill, right?
Funny enough, Dan, my high school when I went there was the 2nd year that they allowed freshmen through seniors to be there, and the 3rd year of its existence.
Yeah, how about that?
It used to be it was a middle school, and I went there as a middle schooler. Their last year where they transitioned it to a high school. And then eventually, when I was a freshman, that's when I started it.
That's too funny.
So more parallels for Fulton and Dan.
That's one of the funniest things that has ever happened on this program. Just an unbelievable. I don't remember who it was.
I
who
don't
started
either.
it.
But it's very funny.
One of our YouTube comments.
One of our
and I don't think like a regular YouTube commenter either.
It was our pal Matt. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Our resident Cowboys fan Matt. Who brought it up, and genuinely one of the funniest things that has ever happened on this show.
Oh boy, it was funny. It was really funny.
Someone brought that up. Might have been Abby. Someone brought that up to me recently. She's like, I can see it.
I don't see it at all.
When Fulton's got the short hair, like the shorter hair,
yeah,
I can slightly.
No, I'm looking at him right now. No,
it's true.
Again, the ages do not line up. If you know anything about how old the two of them are, it does not line up.
No, they don't.
You're what, 12 years, 10 years apart?
I think.
I'm 37 in a month.
We're 10 years apart. I'm 27. Okay. I'm not going to say 27 and a half because I'm a grown man. But I do turn 28 in January. Only children say they're blank and a half.
Fulton's sitting there. He's like, I'm this many.
I am not a child.
No,
honestly,
so
I will not say I'm 27 and a half. No, I'm 27.
As the leader of a grown man can't be known as Bobby campaign, I'm in favor of that. That's fine.
You stop being able to say you're blank and a half when you're like 10. Like if you're 7, you can say 7 and a half because that half is, still kind of a significant part of your life. I'm 27. Half a year is not at all close to a significant part of my life anymore.
I'm doing.
I should save this for tomorrow.
I was going to say, you got to hold on to this for 2 o'clock hour tomorrow.
Just holster that.
I got to do a little quick math. I am 443 months. That's how old I am.
Wow.
I'm going to come across this glass and smack you.
What would it? Now I want to do the math. So what's 347 for me? My birthday.
Lord,
yeah, you and I
too.
both have birthdays next month. You're not in September, are you?
Nope,
No,
January.
January, that's right. Yeah, Dan and I are both September.
Yeah.
A lot of very. I guess we have a couple of those between the wife with the same name and the birthday month. A couple of similarities.
People want to make jokes about me and Dan. You two are even more similar.
Yes.
You guys got wives with the same name, share a birthday month.
I've gotten in the habit of saying my wife all the time instead of referring to her like she has a name, because she does have a name, but it's the same name as the guy that I talk to on the radio 3 hours a day every day.
Yeah.
So you get in the habit on here, so then I do it in other conversation, oh yeah, my wife, oh, she has a name, she's a real person.
She has her own identity,
Yes.
not just being Dan's wife.
My Abby. So you got to do it.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Vance on YouTube. And speaking of the funniest things to ever happen on this radio show, Vance says he's sad he's not going to be able to make any more fishing jokes about
joke
Fulton.
had a year of run on this program.
That might have to be future summer filler when you take your annual fishing
Yeah,
trip.
we're going to need the Fulton fishing recap.
Yeah, I got you guys.
The fishing report.
That was maybe the meanest exchange on a group text I've ever been involved with, because you said you hadn't caught a fish, and I said that graphic, that Tony Snell graphic that goes around on Twitter.
Oh, that was
Tony
that was
Snell had
mean.
that one game in the NBA where
Yeah.
he played 28 minutes and didn't have a stat.
Yeah.
No points, no rebounds, didn't even try a shot.
Didn't even get a foul.
And
Nothing.
Brendan sends the Philip Gaines
Yeah.
screenshot.
Yeah.
What game was that Philip Gaines got?
Oh,
against
my God.
Denver. I'm pretty sure it was
Was it Denver or was it Pittsburgh?
It was Denver. It was one of the two. Oh, it might have been Pittsburgh.
All right,
Where
hold on.
Philip Gaines gets absolutely flamed, gives up 200
toasted.
yards just on his own.
I think it was Denver.
All right. It was Denver.
Nailed it.
Okay.
Denver
I remember
in
that.
November
Yep.
of 2016.
He got
Yeah,
killed.
Philip Gaines thrown at 8 times, 6 completions, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he got roasted.
That was
Destroyed.
Fulton versus the Fish.
We were fine this-
the bewildered, I'm getting cooked look on Philip Gaines's face.
It's like, boy, this is bad.
It's just one of those days. Chalk that one up to the game, I
Man,
guess.
The blurry SpongeBob meme.
Yep. That was,
Oh, my
man,
God.
I bet that joke got legs
So
for a year
freaking
was
funny.
impressive.
so
Very
funny.
impressive.
Since you are leaving town as well,
Yes.
not going to Wichita's not that far,
Yeah,
away,
a
but
couple hours.
what are you missing? Don't be sappy and say us. What are you missing the most about Topeka?
Topeka, it's man.
Also, be nice.
I'm gonna be nice. No, there are different parts of the city I'll miss. I am making mainly there's a lot of good food in this city.
Just say the pad. It's fine.
Well, that's what I was gonna say because I had that last night. Literally, that was my dinner last night because I had to. I had to have the pad last night. I don't know if I'll get a chance. I'm gonna try and make a trip to Taco Villa before I leave. Because that's also was a great time. But yeah, no, just a lot. Those are some of my main things, and just being around the city. There's just a lot of nice history in the city too. Like the Brown v. Board site ruled. Actually getting around to go and see that was a lot of fun. So just
that was one thing you got to sign
you
that you
checked
did.
that box
Yeah.
off.
I did check that box off, but just I've never been a big, and I should be better about it. I'm not a big go out and do things person. When I'm at home, I can be very big homebody. But there's just some nice parts of the city that's fun to get. I will not be amongst the people who go, I'm so happy to be out of this. No, Topeka's been fine. Topeka's been good to me.
Topeka has been fine. I think they put that on the signs entering
Topeka's
town.
been very good to me. So I have nothing but nice things to say about this city.
Where it used
You
to
are
say,
to Topeka as baseball is to Sammy Sosa. I got that analogy backwards, but you get what I was trying to say.
I get what you go for there, buddy. I got you.
all right. So
Yes.
since you are going to discuss your various hills you're dying on tomorrow, I guess we need a take or two about the upcoming year or continuation of the current seasons going on. All right, I need something KU, something K-State, something Chiefs, something Royals. Then we'll let you go.
All right. So for do you want for KU and K-State, do you want football, basketball specifically?
Either one.
Either
Either
one's
one.
fine.
The other one's fun. KU football, they're getting 8 wins.
Okay,
I'll go that
8.
far.
Wow.
I think they find a way. They're going to go 3-0 in the non-con. They're going to beat Illinois, the toughest game there. And I think they're going to find a way to really make some surprises and maybe find a way to get 5 wins in conference. I'm not going to say like I'm like tied to that to where if it doesn't happen, I'll feel foolish. But if I had to give a little bit of a heater, I think KU could find their way to 8 wins. In the
Hold
field.
on. You cannot.
Yeah, I can.
You cannot
I
say
can.
my bold
I can.
prediction is this, but then I'm not tied to it.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
the entire
Totally
point.
Totally allowed.
Spend the entire time
Totally allowed.
hedging
Totally allowed.
on
Totally
your
allowed.
bold prediction.
Totally allowed.
Let him hang, Fulton. Who's going to hold you accountable?
That's fair. No, but yeah, KU 8 wins. I think that could happen. I really think I can. I think they will. That offense, man. If Jalen can just be healthy all year, that offense is going to be.
It should be
something special. K-State. I'm going to stick to football for K-State as well. Not only do I believe K-State is winning the Big 12 for the second consecutive year, you know what? In the spirit of let them hang, K-State sneaks into the college football playoff.
Hey now.
Okay. I can see it.
I really like this K-State team this year. And I know everyone's like, oh, Texas this, Texas that. Texas actually do something on a field first, and I'll believe you will do anything. Like, so much so with Texas. So I'll put a bold prediction out that the K-State makes the college football playoff. Chiefs, they're winning back-to-back Super Bowls. They're going to win. They're going to win another one. Mahomes gets ring number 3. The dynasty gets fully cemented. And more importantly, I'll add a piggyback onto that. Not only do the Chiefs win their second consecutive Super Bowl this year, Patrick Mahomes wins back-to-back MVPs.
Okay.
The voter fatigue will not set in just yet.
What are the odds on that, by the way?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Probably fairly short.
They were plus 5, plus 400?
Last I looked, the Chiefs were plus 600.
Yeah, plus 600.
Oh, yeah, not bad.
Not terrible.
Yeah. No, Chiefs go back-to-back in more than one category.
All right.
Back-to-back titles, back-to-back rings. The Royals, my worst relationship ever. Me and the Royals, who destroy my sanity. The Royals are flirting with 500. And by that, I mean they win 80 games at least in 2025. And I know for some of you go, oh, that's not crazy.
Year
some of you
7
think they
of the rebuild, they will almost be 500.
I will also add to that, as I always do. To me, this is a new rebuild. I do not count this as the first rebuild failed. Dayton Moore screwed it up so bad, they failed. This is year 1 of a brand new rebuild, is what I consider this as. And that is not as probably as bold as one would expect from me. I've seen plenty of people think this team will do nothing until like 2028. Like, Jake's question was, will they do anything before they leave for a new stadium? So I will
love the tenor of this whole last segment. KU football, best season in 15 years. K-State football, college football playoff bound. Chiefs winning it all back to back. The Royals, 4th place by 2025, baby.
Hey, man, 80 wins in the AL Central is like 2nd place.
Yeah, you might be right. That's fact. That could be a fact.
I hope for your sake they get there. More than even my sake at this point.
I hope for my sake, too, because I don't know what's going to happen if this state keeps up any longer.
If there's nothing else that I will take from having known and worked alongside you these last 15 months or so, Fulton, it is now I have a real reason to hope the Royals do good, and it is for you and your own good.
So that I will be
I
happy.
want good things for you.
Thank you.
I want good things for the Kansas City Royals by extension.
I can only hope so. I can only hope they do something that doesn't cause me pain. You know what? I'm gonna add one more onto this. For this season
go for it.
because I brought this up today on Mic'd Up, and I'm gonna cement it as a full-on take. Bywitt Jr. and Michael Garcia win Gold Gloves this year.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about them yesterday.
Yeah.
Your defensive prowess.
I am sticking that stake. It's really kind of late in the year to stick that stake in the ground. But I'm sticking the stake in the ground.
Yeah, we got more than a month and a half left. It's fine.
Your major league leader, not above average, regardless of position, Bywitt Jr.
Great minds think alike. We were talking about that yesterday. Fulton, we appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for stopping by. Been a fun last 2+ years having you here. Sports Talk, Mic'd Up, all of it. Looking forward to tomorrow, noon to 3, the final edition of Mic'd Up with Jake LeBon and Fulton Caster. We'll stop by at the end of the show to say our goodbyes as well. So make sure you're tuned into that. send your final farewells radio-wise. He's not going anywhere. He's just not going to be on the air anymore here in Topeka. Fulton, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Pleasure as always, boys.
That is the one, the only Fulton Caster. And with that, we've got to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you is coming up after this right here on 580 WIBW. What is wrong with you time on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk? I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Two new stories going head-to-head today, trying to take down the meth-fueled self-baptism, which has run the rack this week so far. Guy was robbing a church, was stealing their money, and decided he wanted to cleanse his sins on his way out and was caught in the baptismal font. I need to look up. I don't know. Like, I feel like you have to have some sort of designation to baptize someone, right? Like pastor, priest, rector, like something, right? I don't know. Maybe not.
I would think.
I don't know that you can do it to yourself. I think it's kind of a joint ceremony, but hey, maybe not. The dog, the canine unit also got into the baptismal at one point in that story. Our two new ones today are brought to you, as always, by our friends at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Dan, would you like to go first today?
I will go first today. We are going to Sarasota, Florida. Big Florida week.
Big time
on What Is Wrong With You. And it was a bad time to be the Sarasota Classic Car Museum. Museum's been in the same place for half a century, but its landlord, the New College of Florida, which has been in the news lately,
quite a bit,
told the Classic Car Museum that it had to pack up, had to leave. It had several weeks to clear out and find a new place for all of its classic cars. And then one of its classic cars, a 1977 Porsche 911 Turbo, or a Type 930, if you're a real gearhead and you're more familiar with it in those terms, was stolen from the museum in what appeared to be a well-organized heist. Fortunately, the museum was given an extension before its relocation, and in another stroke of good fortune for the museum, the car, which belonged to a client of the museum, was recovered. A 36-year-old suspect in the theft of the Porsche, which is valued at $250,000, was arrested on July 21st, and the details are just now coming to life. The suspect, referred to in the story here as consummate Florida man, Daniel Boyce of Sarasota, was originally arrested for failing to appear for a Grand Theft Auto charge, but now faces a felony charge of fraud because he tried to register the car using fraudulent documents in the same city he stole it from.
Oh, my God.
Officers responded to a 3 a.m. burglary alarm in June at the Classic Car Museum, but no employee could be reached. The building was concluded to be secure. Several hours later, police department officers were dispatched again, discovered pry marks on the door and an open chain link fence, which was closed when the officers first came to the museum. Surveillance footage showed an unknown man on the property. That is believed to be Boyce. He allegedly used gasoline left at the car museum to start the car. The keys had been left on the driver's side floorboard. The burglar drove off. Several days later, an anonymous tip told an employee Boyce had been seen with the brown Porsche at a warehouse. After following several leads, police found that Boyd actually registered the Porsche under an LLC company called Triton Engineering. Police, in collaboration with a county tax collector supervisor, found that Boyce provided a VIN number from a car involved in a 23-year-old crash and sold to a salvage yard in California. A Maine registration used in this process was also discovered to be fraudulent. The bill of sale, odometer verification letter, and letter from Triton Engineering indicating Boyce was allowed to register the car with this company, all found to be fake as well. The letter, signed by a Christopher McGill, not a real guy, listed Boyce's own cell phone number.
Oh, my God.
A search warrant of the suspect's phone revealed a photo of the stolen Porsche. Another photo showed a storage unit code and unit number where they found the car.
Well, at least he didn't make him work too hard.
No, not. I mean, he had this master heist all thought out, but once he got away with the car, he had no idea what to do.
Didn't think.
Yeah.
See, if you're going to plan a crime, you got to plan what you're going to do on the back end of the crime as well.
One good plan, one not good plan.
Oh, my God. That's really funny. Speaking of a not so good plan, my story is going to take us also to Florida, Largo, Florida, to be specific, which is in the greater Tampa Bay area. After being caught stealing bicycle accessories from a Walmart, a man reportedly gave police a devastating self-analysis. 53-year-old Daniel Kazmar said, quote, "I'm not good at shoplifting." The 53-year-old's spontaneous admission came yesterday following an arrest for stealing a bicycle pump, a bike lock, and an inner tube from the Walmart in Largo. Police say that Kazmar parked his bike, which had a flat tire, outside the Walmart before entering the store and stashing $35.88 worth of merchandise in his t-shirt. Store security saw Kazmar in action, alerted police, and he was arrested outside the store. It did not take them long to get there or to make the arrest. According to Officer Luis Rodriguez, when the police initially contacted Kazmar, he made the following spontaneous statement, quote, "I'm not good at shoplifting." His rap sheet includes 2 prior theft convictions. Thus, he is charged with a felony for the theft.
Now, objectively, he is correct.
He's very bad at it, in fact. He's been arrested 100% of the time that he's tried. He was arrested last month for stealing under $21 worth of, quote, multiple drinks and sandwiches from a different Walmart. And at the time of that arrest, by the way, he also had fentanyl on him. Can't do that.
There it is.
Can't do that, buddy.
There it is.
Do not commit crime while committing another crime. You know the saying.
He tried to put a pump, lock, and inner tube under his shirt. Yeah,
it's one baggy shirt, man.
Yeah, that's not going to evade detection.
No. Man. Like any employee who's worth their salt is going to see you walking with your shirt balled up. cradling it. Say, hey, something looks wrong here.
Well, if he were good at shoplifting, he would have gotten away with it. Not just this time, but all the other times that he got arrested and convicted for theft.
So funny.
It is probably time. Like, it's good to be self-aware. It's probably time to find a new hobby or pastime, one that doesn't send him to jail.
The car show wins today. It wasn't a car show, but I mean, there were a lot of exhibits of fake things.
Yes. He really thought he was going to get away with it. It's from the text line 785, go big or go home.
Yeah, no, I respect. He
went big.
He went big, but then he also had to go home because he didn't know where else to go, which is a problem.
Register the car in the same city.
That's so dumb. That happens so often in these stories. Go somewhere else. We have a large country. There are a lot of places to go.
I'm sure he's thinking, most thieves don't think to register their stolen vehicles. I'm ahead of the game, baby.
I'm hiding in plain sight.
I got these fake documents. I can lie and say it's mine.
That does not beat the meth-fueled self-baptism.
No, self-baptism is still carrying the week.
That is still our winner in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you again by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. You can find Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll go around the NFL after this on 580 Sports Talk. It's been a bad week to have been a mediocre starting cornerback in the late 2010s in the NFL. A couple of guys who are now out of the league. Bashaud Breeland, Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. Former Packer, Viking, Commander, and he was going to sign with Carolina, but then cut his foot during the offseason and had a $24 million contract get voided.
Yeah, that did happen.
He got in some trouble earlier this week, including, and I've got to pull up the full story here. Our guy Bashad is facing charges including possession of a stolen motor vehicle, altering serial numbers, altering a title. This could have been What Is Wrong With You Today. Possession of marijuana, possession of a Schedule 1 controlled substance, and possession of a stolen firearm. He was found in a stolen Mercedes-Benz SUV with 8 guns, 5 pounds of weed, and 62 grams of mushrooms.
That's a lot of mushrooms.
That's a lot of drugs. And a lot of guns, at least one of which, probably more of which, were stolen in a car that was also stolen. Dude, you played in the NFL 8 years, man. You do not have to do this. You do not have to live like this.
You don't have to be Tony Montana.
No.
Like those, I know you missed out on that 24 mil, but like there were some other game checks, I'm sure.
Yeah, you still got a few mil from the Chiefs playing here 2 years. Vikings paid you. You didn't play well for them, but they paid you. Then today, just now, within the last few hours, former NFL defensive back Buster Skrine, who played for the Jets, Titans, and Bears, I'm not sure about anyone else, he was arrested on Wednesday after authorities say he fraudulently obtained more than $100,000 from a bunch of banks throughout the country. That is the wording of TMZ Sports.
He was a Titan and a 49er in 2021.
Okay.
Played 1 game with San Francisco, 6 with Tennessee.
He is facing 14 charges, including fraud and possession of property obtained by crime in Canada.
So apparently he would attend a financial institution, identify him as a retired NFL player, open a bank account with a fraudulent check, and then obtain a portion of the money before the check cleared. That's according to TMZ Sports. Reportedly did this at multiple locations in the Durham region, and add that they have reason to believe he pulled similar scams all across Canada. The Durham region is just east of Toronto, essentially. The big city in the Durham region is Oshawa.
Sure. I've never heard of Oshawa before.
Home of the Oshawa Generals. Big deal junior hockey team.
Is Buster Skrine Canadian? He from Canada? No, he's from Decatur, Georgia.
No, he is 100% not Canadian.
Another guy.
Bobby Orr played for the Oshawa Generals.
Bro, you played in the NFL for 11 years. What are you doing? So bad. We do have preseason football, guys who are still in the league and theoretically not committing crimes. Coming up later tonight, we've got Texans, Patriots, and as we talked about earlier, Seahawks versus Vikings. The intrigue in that first game, other than Bill Belichick being asked, is Mac Jones going to start, and him saying, yeah, I don't know, is CJ Stroud is going to have his first NFL exhibition action coming up tonight. I'm extremely excited for the rookie quarterbacks this year because I think the first 3 drafted are all going to start week 1. CJ Stroud definitely is. Bryce Young definitely is. And by all accounts, Anthony Richardson has the job to lose in Indianapolis. I know their first depth chart, it was listed as Richardson or Gardner Minshew. It's going to be Richardson unless he gets hurt. So I'm kind of excited for that we're going to see all these dudes right off the rip.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson is the most fascinating guy for me because I'm in on the physical projection. Like, if it works, if it clicks, he's a superstar.
Yes.
If it doesn't, he will make Jamarcus Russell look like prime Peyton Manning. Like, the range of outcomes is so vast for him that he is going to be fascinating to watch develop. I'm really, really interested in seeing what it looks like for Anthony Richardson. Interested enough to watch a bunch of preseason football? No, but interested.
Highlights?
Yeah, I'll check the highlights.
2-minute, 30-second cut-ups on Twitter of his 8 throws from a game.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, feed those to me.
It's the Josh Allen phenomenon with him, except I think he's an even more extreme case of just betting on the athleticism, which, for the record, and I know during the draft, I was very hesitant to put my weight behind him. I wish him the best. Like, I'm not rooting against the guy by any means.
Sure.
But, like, Josh Allen, when he was drafted, and I remember you, me, and Jake when he got drafted that was 2018, all saying, I cannot believe this dude is being hyped up as a first-round pick, let alone a top 10 guy. Like, he had a good second to last year at Wyoming, but his last year there was not especially good. He didn't play anybody. He's not very accurate. And his first 2 years in Buffalo weren't good, but now he's obviously a superstar. He's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. Richardson did play at a high level in college. He played at Florida and was the best athlete on the field every single time he was out there, but was also inaccurate, and they weren't especially good the year where he was the only option at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. In a world where Josh Allen doesn't exist, is Anthony Richardson, he's certainly not a top 5 pick, but is he even a first-round pick? Because the Josh Allen success story is the one that gets general managers to say, I believe it's going to happen. I believe more firmly it's going to happen for a guy like Anthony Richardson because you can point to Josh Allen. He's the only guy. Like, Josh Allen's the outlier. He's the exception that proves the rule, that these toolsy guys who don't produce in college generally do not come and produce in the NFL. But Josh Allen has maybe broken that mold a little bit, and through that crack in the door walks Anthony Richardson, and we'll see how it looks for him. It could be so much fun. Like, I'm rooting for it on the basis of fun. It's kind of the same reason I'm hoping Justin Fields can figure it out. Not because I care one bit or another about the Bears or Justin Fields as like a person or a player, but if he's good, it's fun. And we need fun quarterbacks. The more good, fun quarterbacks there are in this league, the better the league is, the more watchable it is from tip to tail. So I think if you're a football fan, you got to be rooting for Anthony Richardson to pan out. You got to be rooting for Justin Fields to find his footing as a passer in addition to his manifestly obvious gifts as a runner. Like, you got to be rooting for these guys because the more good quarterbacks there are in the league, the better the league is.
I will say this. I am a bigger fan of drafting these guys and taking the chance. And if any owner is willing to take a chance, it's Jim Irsay. I would much rather see teams take a chance on guys like Anthony Richardson early in the draft than watching teams invest a ton of time and capital into like Josh Rosen, or I know he was a second rounder, but like Christian Hackenberg, Blaine Gabbert, dudes who just don't have that kind of juice.
Jake Locker,
dudes who just Christian Ponder. What, that 2010 class, other than Cam Newton, yikes,
rough.
At least Gabbert's still in the league. He's a chief. He's ring chasing.
Yeah. And he's got one.
Yeah, and like, he's a fine backup. Like a guy who's probably not going to do anything stupid. The coach on the field thing. That's a fine backup
good arm
quarterback.
Yeah.
But you don't want to spend a first-round pick on a fine backup quarterback. If another case like this works where Anthony Richardson's a hit after Josh Allen, it took a couple years, but he's clearly a hit. Like, we're not going to see Jared Goff ever drafted number 1 overall ever again.
No.
Like, that would never happen. But, the fewer picks that are spent on guys who clearly are never going to have it, I think is better for football. It's more it'll be intriguing one way or the other. I wish the best for him. I'm excited we'll get to see him right off the rip for sure. We've got half an hour left on 580 Sports Talk, including our Chiefs training camp report with Mitch Holthus coming up after the news right here on 580 WIBW. hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday, August 10th. He's Dan Lucero. I am Brendan Dworzinski. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on the show today. We're done early for Royals baseball, the final game of a four-game set with the Boston Red Sox from Fenway Park in Boston. It will be on the mound, Austin Cox tonight for the Royals.
He's the opener, should be noted. He's going to be the opener. Alec Marsh is going to piggyback behind Cox, so it'll be a couple of left-handers tonight for the Royals.
James Paxton going for the Red Sox. We'll talk a little Royals baseball coming up here in just a matter of moments. And, of course, once we get to the back half of this half hour, we will hear from the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, joining us for our Chiefs training camp report today. Looking forward to talking a little Brian Cook, one of our favorite players in the Chiefs secondary right now.
If anybody's an Athletic subscriber, by the way, a really neat piece that Nate Taylor did today, essentially shadowing Brian Cook for a practice.
Yeah, really cool.
Just breaking down all of the things that Brian Cook did over the course of a practice with commentary from Cook himself throughout the article. Really, really neat conceit for an article, for a piece, and good work by Nate Taylor. Worth reading again if you have an Athletic subscription.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. Royals baseball, again, action tonight. Last night, bummer of a way to lose with the ball getting stuck in the wall and the gap in left field and too many little things like that. But we did kind of speak it into existence. MJ Melendez, 2 home runs in the game. He was almost all of the offense for the Royals yesterday.
Boy, he kills the ball against the Red Sox. I mean, he sees that Red Sox uniform and he turns into George Brett. It's wild. 2 dingers for him last night, showing the big power. The first one was way gone. And then the second one, opposite field power, got it up over the monster. Really encouraging stuff. He continues to have a really strong second half, and he continues to be a bright spot for the Royals since the All-Star break. I've talked about it at length that if MJ Melendez is going to be an everyday player for the Royals, it's not going to be the glove that carries him. He's been moved off of the catcher spot, which is a decision that I wonder if the Royals had Freddie Fermin not come up from the minor leagues and been what he's been. I wonder if the Royals would be revisiting their decision to make MJ Melendez a full-time outfielder. Not that he was a great catcher, but he certainly had a little bit of feel back there. He's a coach's kid. You thought maybe they could teach him, maybe he could grow into that role at the major league level. And then the bar for his offense wouldn't be so high if he could be at least a part-time backstop. But they moved to the outfield full time. They moved into the corner outfield. The glove, again, as it's been displayed, it's just not there. He's just not a real good outfielder. And I don't know that he's ever going to be a real good outfielder. He's athletic enough that he's not going to fall down all over himself. But as far as the jumps and the nuances of outfield play, it just hasn't clicked for him yet. So I don't know that this is going to be an Alex Gordon story where a player changes position and turns into a Gold Glove corner outfielder. But if he's going to be bad defensively, then MJ better hit. And the calling card for Melendez at the plate is going to be the power. He's not going to be a 300 hitter. It's going to be the pop. If he's a 25 to 30 home run guy, and like we talked about yesterday, he's got the pop. He's got like the loudness in his bat, so to speak, to be a player who hits that many home runs if he makes a little more contact. If he gets his contact rate back to where it was as a rookie last year, I think he's got 25 home runs in him. And then you play him in the outfield because the bat carries the glove. Like, that's the thing about being a corner outfielder is usually with corner outfielders, it's the bat that carries the glove. And if Melendez gets to that 25, 30 home run mark, then it's worth talking about him as somebody who is a fixture in the lineup with a bat that is generating enough pop to carry the glove.
Again, I mean, it's the same thing we talked about yesterday, right? That if you can produce at an above average to, you got to have some amount of pop. You got to be able to drive guys in, get on base a decent amount. I mean, you can live with that, even with the Royals' insistence on certain profiles in the outfield. If the bat's good enough, you live with that, because generally speaking, talking about the bat carrying the glove, generally speaking, your offense is more valuable than your defense in baseball. That is what it is. And I personally am of the belief that the Royals have spent way too much energy and capital on finding good defenders as opposed to finding just all around better, more valuable outfielders. I think of Michael A. Taylor. I think of, and I know he's hitting better. He's on the bereavement list right now, so feel bad for Drew Waters. Hope he's doing okay. He has been put on the bereavement list. Nelson Velasquez, the player they acquired from the Cubs, brought up to the Major League club today. Drew Waters as a prospect reminds me a lot of that too. The bat, glove though, great. That's the kind of players that the Royals for so long have put so much of a focus on. Whereas Melendez, I'm willing to have a bad outfielder in right or left. I'm totally fine with that if he can produce offensively.
If you're going to punt defense anywhere, even at a park like Kauffman Stadium, where you can, I think, fairly argue that outfield defense plays up because it's such a big outfield and the ball doesn't really carry, you can live with it in a corner. You can live with it in particular in left field, especially if you're able to find defenders the caliber of Drew Waters and Kyle Isbell, play them in the other two defensive positions. Now, those guys have to hit too.
Yeah.
Waters has had a better second half. Isbell, I don't think is ever going to get to the point where he hits enough to justify, even as good as his glove is, being out there every day. But yeah, you can have one guy out there who's not a Gold Glover. That's fine, but they better hit. That's just it. If you're not going to be a well-rounded player, you better be excellent at the one thing. And that's going to help you provide value. And I think there's an excellent power hitter in MJ Melendez. And I hope that the signs that we have seen here these last 3 weeks since the All-Star break, I hope that's the sign that he's made an adjustment and that this is something that's real that he can carry forward.
I know that a lot of times in baseball, groups of guys either slump together or surge together at the same time. But I am choosing to be optimistic here and to believe that the fact that Witt is hitting the ball so well, that you have Melendez and you have Waters and you have Massey, the guys we talked about yesterday, they are all hitting the ball well. You're seeing an increased overall offensive output. I am choosing to believe that is a sign that something has clicked, that something has turned around, that the coaching is getting through more, the hitting development folks, they have been able to get something to really work. I'm choosing to believe that. And if that is the case, Melendez can be a long-term corner outfielder for this team. There's no doubt about that. But I've also been burned by a lack of consistency before. So we'll see. 5:30 pregame, 6:10 first pitch coming up tonight.
Yeah, let's see if they can get a split, get home with a 3-4 road trip that could have been, maybe should have been a lot better. I mean, they played better ball on this trip than their current 2-4 record on the trip suggests.
Coming up on the other side of this timeout, before we get to that Royals pregame, we'll talk to Mitch Holthus and wrap up today's show with our Chiefs training camp report here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, wrapping things up on this Thursday afternoon. And you know what time it is. Time for our Chiefs training camp report with the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, brought to you by our good friends at both Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Make sure you ask Haven Byrne, Crystal Rippey, or Melissa Hunter about using the Credit Union Advantage for your home loan over at Azura Credit Union. Mitch, how has well, I know it's not a day off for you, certainly, but how was the day off from practice up at St. Joe?
Well, it's a day where you scramble to try to get, even if it's a preseason game, and for our network, trying to get organized. And so it's more of a day of logistics and making sure everything's kind of ready to go. But for the players, they get this time off to come back for an odd single practice tomorrow, and then we'll fly to New Orleans after a team walkthrough on Saturday.
Let's get to our focal point of today's training camp report. And I know I mentioned this to you as we were going off the air yesterday, Mitch, but Dan and I are both huge fans of today's subject. Brian Cook, the safety who finished his college career for one of those great Cincinnati teams, that Bearcats team that made the college football playoff, started his career at Howard. Another one of these guys that just blows you away with his football smarts. Love the energy and love the intensity. Occasionally got him in a little bit of trouble. Had 1 or 2 penalties on the year for a little excessive force out there, but love his game. And he feels like a guy who maybe hasn't been talked about a lot by the public, but feels like he's in line to really break out into a bigger role this year.
Of the 10 rookies that comprise the so-called sophomore class, the 9 draftees, and then undrafted free agent Jack Cochran, Cook has, I'm going to say overlooked, but he's had a more prominent role, I think, than fans realize. That being said, he was the third wheel last year. It was Juan Thornhill and Justin Reed, and then Cook would fill in either in one of Steve Spagnuolo's defenses, or he would rotate in. It's different. He's a starter. He's there with Justin Reed, and there's a lot that has been put on his plate. The role for Brian Cook has changed, I think, a great deal just since the end of last year's championship in the Super Bowl.
The role and how your role's increasing compared to a year ago, and just more on your plate and more responsibility. How's that like for you?
How's it been? It's been good. I think the support I have from my teammates is the biggest thing for me. Being comfortable, having the trust that they have instilled in me, and then having the leadership like Nick Bowden and those are the rest of the guys that's out there helping me along the way, as well as my great defensive coordinator Steve Spag. So it's just getting things in the right order, learning day by day, and just putting things all together for the last and final. Before we get to the actual dance.
As a follow-up to that, you guys play big nickel. There'll be 3 safeties, 3 corners. Could be 4 corners, 2 safeties. Could be. You guys do a whole lot. What about coordinating all that on the back end?
It's nice when we have a bunch of vets. We got Mike that came from Tampa Bay, so he's a little bit more veteran. We had Justin Reed, and then we have still the group from last year, so we all still gelling together, which is pretty well. But having everybody on the same time on the same field at the same time is pretty good for us as a DB group, because we all in the same meetings together, so we all hearing the same language. When we're on the field, it's even more of a familiarity that we have together.
There were moments for Cook last year. His breakup in the back of the end zone against Tampa Bay to forward a touchdown was big, and his biggest play was the tip pass on a deep ball in the AFC Championship game from Joe Burrow that ended up in the arms of his buddy Joshua Williams. But I expect more explosive plays, but you guys alluded to it. He's very bright, not just football bright, but off the field bright. Howard, is an awesome institution of learning, and HBCU school, a leading school. So I just have high hopes for him. If there's a comp that would be the greatest compliment for Sky Moore, if we're start talking about being a Julian Edelman, it's not far-fetched to see Brian Cook at some point, someday, in the discussion with those Legion of Boom guys of Seattle back in the early 2010s.
You mentioned Mitch Juan Thornhill a few minutes ago, who obviously was a major contributor for the Chiefs during his 4 years with the team, was so good early, had to deal with the injuries, was a little up and down, but had a strong end to his Chiefs career as well before moving on in free agency to Cleveland this year. What similarities do you see between Brian Cook and Juan Thornhill, since Cook kind of sliding into that role this year? And what does he do differently that might be able to take that secondary to another level?
Yeah, I see Shamari Connor, the rookie out of Virginia Tech, is more of a direct comparison to Thornhill. But it's a fair question. Cook is more athletic but he doesn't have the 41-inch vertical that Connor and Juan has. But Cook is more physical. That's why I'm saying, man, I got to be careful not to get out over my skis, but think of a Cam Chancellor and just how impactful as a physical player, but still could cover and getting forced fumbles or separating somebody from the football in a second or third level hit. That's what Cook brings. That's not Juan Thornhill's bag. Now, can Cook get over the top of a play like Thornhill, which when Juan was healthy, he was very good at playing a single high or a cover two where he's back and has to come over the top of a throw. Now, he blew it in the Super Bowl 57, the A.J. Brown touchdown. He comes underneath on that play. So Cook's not bad at it, but Cook is more physical, if that makes sense. I just think Cook could be a Pro Bowler very soon, maybe not 2023, but in the very, very, very future, real quick future here for him, near future.
We're talking to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk for a training camp report brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, we have talked for a few years now about the 3 safety look, the big nickel, as you called it in your conversation with Brian Cook. Steve Spagnuolo has been a fan of that, has liked to utilize that for some time now. The safety roles in a 2-safety defense are pretty well understood by, I think, even the average NFL fan. You have, the free safety, the over-the-top safety, the center fielder, however you want to describe that role. And then the strong safety, typically a little bit more in the box, a little bit more down, 10, 15 yards or closer from the line of scrimmage. But when you have that third safety in there, and that's a role that Brian Cook kind of filled last year, what is the role of that safety, and what makes that particular piece so valuable and so desirable for Steve Spagnuolo to have on the field?
The way football is played at all levels, but specifically in the National Football League over the past 5 to 7 years, Spags is a student of the game, and we all know how prolific offenses have become. And so offenses will also try to kind of trick a defense where they'll bring in a pass look and play a spread, but their intention is to run the ball out of that spread or to throw short passes, in essence a run, or throw bubble screens, which is in essence a run. So defenses, if you get too big against that, then you're vulnerable to the passing game. If you get too small against that, you're going to get run roughshod over. What's the answer? Find something in between. Enter Brian Cook. And cover second level, even cover third level some. That goes back to our discussion we just had with Brendan's question. But Cook's really good defending bubble screen, second level run defender, first level run defender out of a multi-defensive back set. So it's a answer that Spags has to what modern football is. But to do that, you must have the personnel that fits that. That's why Drew Tranquil, listed as a linebacker, fits that. But not far from him, listed as a safety, is Brian Cook. Juan Thornhill was not going to be a second level or first level safety in a 3-safety nickel, just because he was not an awesome run defender like Brian Cook is. I hope that makes sense. When we think of coverages, and not to nerd out here football-wise, but safety in a cover 4 is basically playing a quarter of the field. It's quarters. Cover 3, if a safety is, it's usually with 2 corners. It can be with a couple safeties, but that's a third. You slice the field into thirds. Cover 2 is you're kind of playing man under press with the safeties back. Like a cover 6 is a combination. You see a lot of combo, like a matchup zone in basketball, but you have to have the players to be able to run those combo coverages. It's really combo man and zone. And Cook is that guy. That's why I think he's an emerging star, because of his skill set and how he fits the scheme and what it takes to succeed as a run and pass defender against modern offenses.
Mitch, we're a little short on time, so I hate to spring this question on you last, but I had a bit of a philosophical question for you about what the Chiefs are doing and what Steve Spagnuolo likes. I know you and I have talked before about how I'm a longtime fan of the Green Bay Packers. Well, their defense has philosophized for a few years now don't worry about the run. This is a passing league. We're going to stop the pass. And if they run on us, so be it. And you, being a student of the NFL, know the Packers defense has been very bad for a long time with that sort of philosophy. Where does this entire defensive staff kind of fall in that discussion? Like, is it even amount we want to focus on run and pass? Is it more, hey, it is a passing league, we have to address that more? How do they sort of view that philosophically?
I'm going to give you a cop-out answer. It's in the middle, really.
Mm-hmm.
And if it skews past the half line, it would be toward the passing game. I'll give you a couple examples. The Chiefs get blown out in 21 by the Bills, and the Chiefs were playing a lot of these kind of combo defenses, and the Bills were like, forget it. We're just going to run at you, and ran over the top of us, with a lot of those being Josh Allen runs. That's the spread, but I'm really showing you, oh, look, it's a spread. I'm going to pass, and then no, we're going to run it, or the quarterback runs it. Same thing in last year's regular season game with the Bills. You got to defend the run some. You really have to be able to defend these running quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, who we'll see week 3. And so you got to play that combo against that as well. You just can't have a quarterback take off and run on you if you're playing cover 0 man-to-man. And then it's what Mahomes does to teams all the time. So you got to do both, but you better play the pass in this league. So if it's 50-50 run pass, I would say it's 62% playing the pass for Spags, and whatever remaining 38% playing the run.
All right, Mitch, who are we closing out this week with coming up tomorrow afternoon?
We're going down the checklist. We're not going to go to an individual player. We're going to put the checklist together. That's kind of a tradition. And what we're going into the Saints game, I get a chance to talk with Coach one-on-one tomorrow, and I'll try to get his thoughts as much as I can tell you. I guess it's preseason, not the real thing. But anyway, we'll go down the list of what ought to be on the radar of everybody that's going to listen and watch this game.
Well, we can't wait. That's coming up tomorrow. This is our Chiefs training camp report with Mitch Holthus, brought to you as always by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, you're the best, my friend. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you, boys. Anxious for this game. Get it rolling.
Can't wait for it. Finally, some real football out there. That is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, brought to you during our training camp reports by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Ask Haven, Crystal, or Melissa at Azura about using the Credit Union Advantage for your home loan. We just about got to get out of here for some Royals baseball, so let's get to a quick final word.
One more thing. In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Dan.
My favorite sports news of the day has been announced. The Denver Nuggets are going to raise their NBA championship banner at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron has to watch them raise that banner. I hope it's the most obnoxious ceremony in NBA history.
You know what? I hope so too. I really do hope so. Final word for me. I'm still pretty sure, like almost certain, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get their long-term deal done with Chris Jones. He is too important to this team and to this defense to go without him, especially this year. I'm a little bit down in my certainty, from like 97 to about 96%. I still think it'll get done, even if it takes a few more weeks. That does it for 580 Sports Talk's full show from 3 to 6 tomorrow. Matt Derrick is going to join us. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 to wrap up the week on 580 Sports Talk.